As of 37 seconds ago, it has been 50 years since the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. made his idiosyncratic I Have a Dream speech. In his speech, King thoroughly describes how even after African American slaves were freed through his Emancipation Proclamation written by President Lincoln, they still were not free. They were not slaves anymore, but they still had to battle through segregation for 100 more years.
King says that all men were issued a check for a promise of freedom, yet for black men and women, that check has come back with insufficient funds. He pushes the fact that blacks are still not being treated fairly among whites.
King and his supporters demanded for freedom with urgency. They do not want to see change over time. They wanted to see the change immediately. King yells, "Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children."
However, King did not want blacks to protest violently against this. He says to obtain equality through nonviolent movement.
The speech was given in front of more than 250,000 people, and King was awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. The I Have a Dream speech was definitely a huge step forward in obtaining racial equality in the 1960s. Next up on the news is a personal recount of discrimination.
Why you were discriminated against?
When it was happening, at the time that it happened, I didn't know what was happening. But when I spoke with my mother and I asked her, and I told her what were the names that I was being called, she explained to me that it was because of my race. So I kind of understood that it was the difference in me not being white, that I was Latin, and that's why I was being discriminated against by other classmates.
And so did you make any attempts to stop this?
I did. Attempts at speaking with a teacher, no, but I spoke with my mother and I asked her what I could do, and she basically told me it was the 70s, early 80s, really not much I could do.
Were there any of your classmates that tried to help you?
I did have one, but she was just as shy as I was, so she was white. Being there with me, that helped, but there wasn't, two girls, really not much you could do.
If you were born in this generation, do you think you would still be discriminated against?
I think that, yes, just depends on where you're from, where you are.